We are back now on Most Buffalo, and this June will mark 15 years since the sudden passing of a man respected and trusted and beloved by so many. Buffalo-born journalist Tim Russert. He was, of course, known far and wide as the host of Meet the Press, but in his hometown, he was much more than that. He was one of us. Tim's beginnings in Buffalo and lifelong love of this city and the Buffalo Bills figure pretty heavily into Look for Me There, Grieving My Father, Finding Myself, a new book written by Tim's son, Luke Russert. The book details Luke's decision to leave a successful career with NBC News to carve his own path in a journey that would take him all over the world. Luke will be talking about reading from and signing copies of the book at the Blackthorn Restaurant and Pub on Seneca Street this Sunday, May 7th, which was also his dad's birthday. And we're very fortunate today to be joined by Luke Russert via Zoom. Luke, we're so glad to have you with us. I just said to you, you've written such a beautiful book.
Well, thank you, Kate. Thank you so much for the support, and thank you for plugging the launch party. It's going to be the first event I'm doing for the book on a sort of book tour, and there's no better place than South Buffalo and the Blackthorn. So we're having a wonderful time on Sunday, and I hope folks can come out and enjoy it. And we can celebrate the Bills Stadium deal, too. So there's a lot to celebrate in Buffalo right now.
Exactly. It's a perfect day for you to be here. And I would imagine it's very meaningful to you at this point in this whole journey to be sharing this story here in Buffalo.
Yeah, Buffalo is where it all began for my family. And I've been fortunate to be able to go back a number of times over the years. And so many of the lessons that my father instilled in me really came from Buffalo. And the importance of showing up, of being dependable, of being kind-hearted. He gave me a note when I went to college that said, Grandpa told me it's nice to be important. It's more important to be nice. And I can't think of a better place to celebrate this book, which has had success so far way beyond my wildest dreams. I think everybody in Buffalo got a copy because we were #1 on Amazon and Barnes & Noble in the last few days, which no one saw that coming. So that's pretty cool.
Well, it's such an interesting story to follow. And, we often joke that there always seems to be a Buffalo connection in the most unexpected places, the strangest stories that we do. And I know that you probably know where I'm going. An example of that for you, in all places, the Holy Land. And you experienced a moment that really, to me, reading it was kind of hilarious, but it's so touching.
It all comes back to Buffalo, as you like to say. So you're referencing a story I tell at the end of the book, which is I'm trying to figure out, after I've traveled to all these countries and spent all this time about self-reflection, really, who am I independent of my parents? Who am I independent of this life that I had lived in Washington, D.C.? And I'm in the Holy Land, and I prayed, and all I hear in my voice is, go pray more, you'll find it, you'll be okay. And as I'm walking out of the church of the Holy Sepulchre, out of nowhere, on a vending table is a Buffalo Bills yarmulke. Of course, I have to buy I'm an Irish Catholic guy, but I buy the Buffalo Bills yarmulke, and it ends up bringing me a sense of peace, which is the ending, which you have to read to hear about. But it all comes back to Buffalo. It's so very true. And I'd also like to share that I went around the world, and in all these different types of faiths and places that are supposed to bring you good luck, I wished for a Bills Super Bowl. So it's not for lack of trying in terms of leaving a little bit of the Bills everywhere I went.
Well, you definitely have to put that out there in the universe for sure.
That's right.
I enjoyed throughout this book, whether you're asking yourself or someone is asking you, it keeps coming up, which is, what am I doing? Where do you find that courage to really embrace the uncertainty as you have so spectacularly?
I think one of the things that travel really teaches you to do is to find a comfort in the uncertainty. And that's not easy, but if you're able to reach that, then you can really reach a point of peace within your own life. After my father died, I never really spent time to grieve. I went hard charging into my career at NBC and really trying to maintain his legacy and keep that flame alive, and was never really introspective and looking inward. And part of that was because to do that meant dealing with uncertainty. I was uncertain of who I was, independent of him, independent of my mother. And that's not a comfortable place to be in. But travel allowed me to really open up inward and say, okay, now that you're gone from all those comfort zones, now that you really are here in a place where you don't know the language and nobody knows who you are, what are you about? And it was incredibly rewarding. And it was something that I think we all, in our own ways, can have an opportunity to pursue if we're a little bit lost. And it doesn't have to be traveling around the world like me. It can be something as simple as just walking in the woods for a few hours without your cell phone. But to have the ability to have a reset like that, it really does go a long way.
And all of these things that you went through, initially writing a book was not the initial goal. And I was struck by something you said, that as you were contemplating writing it, would someone even care about this? And could your experience help other people? Could it help you find your purpose? I'm wondering if that's a question you've been able to answer now that you have this book in front of you and people are reading it, and what kind of continues to draw you now on this path forward.
It's a great question, and I did not set out to write a book. I had kept journals while I was traveling, and at one point while I was going through a difficult period, not necessarily knowing what I wanted to do or what my purpose at the time was, is I went back and I reviewed those journals. And when I was looking through them, there was a lot of stream of consciousness in there, and there was a lot of interesting anecdotes about these places that I went. And I realized two things: is that I was picking up different pieces of the world and trying to help see how they would shape me. But then, secondly, I was looking for something. And I was looking for permission from my dad to sort of be me. And I was simultaneously also running away from something that was dealing with the grief of losing him. So those two things came together for me in the writing process of this book. And I think that's one of the reasons why people have been really receptive to it, is because there's a lot of common themes here that a lot of people can relate to. We all experience grief at one time or another. I think we all have a lot of self-doubt sometimes, inadequacy, some sort of anxieties, but also just a feeling of, man, I could use a reset, or, what is this all about in this given moment when I get off the hamster wheel for a second? And it's been incredibly gratifying to see the response so far. And I set out to help one person, and we've helped a few people. I've gotten so many kind notes in the last few days. They make me tear up. I'm not gonna lie. It's been well worth it.
Well, we know that it's an emotional journey, and we so appreciate being able to talk to you more about it. We've been joined live by Luke Russert, who once again will be signing copies of his new book, Look for Me There, this Sunday at the Blackthorn Restaurant and Pub in Buffalo. All the best to you, Luke, and thanks again for joining us.
Thank you so much, Kate. Appreciate it. Take care.
And go Bills.
Go Bills. Bye-bye.